They say revenge doesn't fix anything. But sometimes, it's the only thing that restores balance. When my little brother came home with bruises, not on his skin but on his spirit, I realized the world wasn't going to protect him. So I did what any big brother would do. I became his shield. And his silent avenger. Music swells, suspense building. What started as a few cruel words ended up with an entire gang of bullies being humiliated in front of thousands online. If you've ever felt powerless watching someone you love get hurt, hit that like button. Because this is the story of how one act of digital justice gave a broken kid his confidence back, and reminded a few monsters that karma never misses. I've never been good at talking about my family's story, but it's the kind of story that leaves fingerprints on your soul. My parents adopted 2 boys, brothers, who'd spent 7 years lost in the system. When they came to us, the oldest was 15, the youngest 10. They'd been through things most adults couldn't survive, but they still smiled like they were seeing sunlight for the first time. Especially M, the younger one. He was quiet, cautious, like every word he spoke was a test to see if the world was safe now. We bonded quickly. I was 10 years older, more like a young uncle than a brother, but I wanted him to feel protected. He'd tell me about his day, his classes, the games he liked. And slowly, the walls around him started to lower. Then, one afternoon he told me about them. There was a group of teens at his school, 13 to 16 years old. Predators hiding behind backpacks and bad haircuts. They picked on anyone smaller than them. Took lunch money, shoved kids in hallways, laughed at their tears. And M, he was an easy target. He wasn't just small, he was different. Different background, different skin tone. Adopted. And they made sure to remind him of it every single day. He told me stories that made my stomach twist. How they'd corner him near the bus stop, demand money, call him slurs. How one of them, a tall kid with a permanent sneer, once pulled a knife on another boy just to prove he wasn't scared to use it. They'd even made the local paper once. A headline about a 10-year-old who'd been beaten so badly he ended up in the hospital. No arrest, no consequences. Just boys being boys, as people like to say. But behind that phrase hides a darker truth. Sometimes boys being boys is just cruelty wearing a smirk. And every night I'd sit there, fists clenched, wishing I could make them feel even a fraction of what they put M through. Weeks turned into months, and the stories didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. They started something new. A social media trend they called cutting. No, not the kind you're thinking of. This was their twisted way of branding humiliation. They'd take a kid's photo, scribble insults across it, things like pathetic, worthless, ugly, and post it on TikTok. The moment it went live, the victim was cut. Everyone at school would see it. Bluff, whisper. And the person's life would crumble a little bit more. When M told me about it, I felt something cold crawl down my spine. They weren't just bullies anymore. They were turning cruelty into content. That night, I stared at my computer screen for hours. Every logical voice in my head said, "Leave it alone." But another voice, darker, quieter, whispered, "They need to learn what fear feels like." One evening, I came home to find M sitting at the kitchen table, shoulders shaking. He'd just found out his best friend had been cut. The post had over 1,000 likes. People he thought were friends were commenting laughing emojis under it. He looked up at me and said, "Why do they do this? Why can't anyone stop them?" I didn't have an answer. But in that silence, something inside me shifted. If the system wouldn't protect him, if adults wouldn't stop them, then maybe, just maybe, I could. And that's when the plan was born. Step 1. Anonymity. I created a fake Instagram account. Nothing fancy, just believable enough to pass for a high schooler. Step 2. Infiltration. I followed their accounts, liked a few of their posts, commented something generic like, "Well, bro, you're wild." The kind of thing they'd expect from one of their own. Within a week, they followed me back. Their profiles were public gold mines. Selfies, group shots, mirror pics with captions like "Alpha Squad" and "No Fear." Perfect material. Step 3. The edits. I spent an entire night collecting photos, carefully choosing the ones that screamed arrogance. Then I opened Photoshop. For the ringleader, the one with the knife, I went all out. Added bright pink eyeshadow, lipstick, fake lashes. Not to shame him for femininity, but because I knew what it would do to his ego, the same ego that thrived on dominance. Underneath I wrote, "Catch him at Sephora after school." I made similar ones for his little crew, twisting their own captions against them, exposing their fake bravado. Nothing obscene, nothing illegal, just poetic. Then I posted them, one by one. Every cut perfectly timed. Within an hour, the first post hit 3,000 views. Then 5,000. The comments exploded. People were laughing, tagging each other. The bullies tried to act tough in the replies, but it was too late. The narrative had turned on them. 2 weeks later, M came to me again, this time with a spark in his eyes I hadn't seen before. He pulled out his phone, grinning. "Look," he said. There they were, the same bullies now being cut by their own peers. Rumors were spreading that the ringleader liked dressing up. The same crowd that once worshipped them was now mocking them. And M, he was laughing. Really laughing. Not cruelly, just free. I played dumb, pretending I didn't know what he was talking about. But inside I felt something warm. Not pride exactly, but peace. Crossed a line, sure. But for once, justice hadn't looked away. The bullies stopped showing up to school for a while. When they came back, they were quieter, smaller. They'd learned what it felt like to be on the other side of fear. And M, he started smiling more. He made new friends. He didn't flinch when someone raised their voice. Maybe it wasn't perfect justice, but it was enough. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about restoration. Those boys took pieces of my brother's self-worth and ground them into dust. All I did was show them how it felt to lose control, to be laughed at for once instead of doing the laughing. Am I a bad person for what I did? Maybe. But if being bad means standing between a kid and his tormentors, then I can live with that. 'Cause some lessons can only be learned through consequence. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and drop a comment. Have you ever seen a bully finally get what they deserved? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where justice, no matter how delayed, always finds its way home.